You learn that not every bad day requires a dramatic decision. Some days just require you to keep going. And that's the hard lesson, man. That's the hard lesson. And yes, paradise is up there at the top of that mountain, but no one reaches that without the climb. And the climb isn't constant triumph, guys. And this is hard for me because I'm an Enneagram 3. I'm the achiever. I want constant triumph, but it just doesn't exist. On nights like tonight at work, it's just sometimes crappy. It's just crappy. There's no other way to say it, guys. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Life Reset Collective. My name is Josh. Today, we're talking about the topic, some days are just bad days, but this doesn't mean you are failing. Tonight, I had a weird, rough night at work. Two of my, staff were in really bad moods. One of them, it was hard to communicate about it with because he doesn't speak English and I am not bilingual. So we were having to talk through Google Translate. And then the other one was in a really bad mood because he had literally worked all night at his other job. And then he came right into this job and he was going to basically have to go back to work at that other job after this job. So he was intensely sleep deprived. This guy has several young children. He has, a wife. They live in a house that is absolutely falling apart, owned by like a slumlord. They literally have like mold growing in their house. And they have when it rains really hard, literally plants are growing through one of his walls. So it is a terrible situation. And he literally works two jobs just trying to make ends meet. And he's one of my kitchen staff at the restaurant that I'm a manager at. And so both of them were just in a terrible mood. They were kind of at each other. And, I know that this job is not a forever job, right? However, it's also true that the time to quit isn't today. And while this was a difficult situation that did put me in a bad mood and it made the day feel like a bad day, all my good energy was drained, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. But I just want to let you know that sometimes, even when you have bad days, sometimes even when you have a failure, or sometimes even when things just go really stressful or wrong, sometimes it doesn't mean you're failing. Sometimes it doesn't even mean you have to change something. Sometimes it just means that you had a bad day, and that's all there is to it. Now, before we continue much further, I just want to remind you what this channel is about. The Life Reset Collective exists to help people, normal people like you and I, who have either needed to go through a life reset or are preparing to go through it or are in the middle of one right now. A life reset can happen for many situations. I've gone through 2 life resets in my life, both times due to divorce. I had to basically start over literally from scratch with nothing. In my first divorce, I hit rock bottom so hard, I was even homeless for a small period of time. In this more recent one, thankfully that never happened, but I did have to stay with family. I had to go carless for a while. I also lost my job in the mix, so it was very difficult. Sometimes people don't understand what a life reset is like until they actually go through it. And so that's what this channel is for, to provide help, encouragement, support, and practical steps to help you navigate your life reset and get back on the climb upward toward an amazing life, because you deserve another chapter. On this channel, we do not believe that this is your defining moment, your final chapter. We believe that everyone deserves a second chance and that this is the beginning of this next chapter of your life. Okay. So that's what we're here for. And that's what we're here to talk about. And I just want to talk a little bit more about this topic. Basically, friend, I want to give you a bit of an arm on the shoulder for this. And I've already told you about my rough day. I don't need to go into any more detail. It was a rough day though, guys. It was a rough day. I'm not going to lie. It was very difficult. The guy who didn't speak English, I couldn't tell if he was mad at me or if he was mad at someone else. I tried to talk to him. I tried to ask him how his day was. I tried to ask him what was wrong. And it was so difficult to communicate because there's a language barrier, but also he was acting so angry. And I don't know why. I have some theories. I think that him and the other guy got into an argument, and I think he might have been a little mad at me because he felt like I wasn't making that guy work harder. Yeah, it's just a thing, right? It's just a thing. So with that being said, I felt very frustrated. I felt like I wanted to quit. I felt like I wanted to walk out. I was frustrated because it felt like I couldn't win. It was frustrating because it felt like no matter what I did, the situation was crappy, and that's all there was to it. I sometimes have a hard time with situations that I can't fix, but it is what it is. Sometimes you just have bad days, and it doesn't mean that you are failing, and sometimes it doesn't mean that the situation even needs to change. Sometimes when you're going through your life reset, you're trying to rebuild your life, you're going to be in circumstances that are going to be challenging, but it's the right place for you, at least for now, and it's challenging. Just because we come up against opposition, it doesn't mean that that's the wrong thing. Sometimes when we come up against challenges, opposition, frustration, it just means that we're in the right place, going in the right direction, but we're meeting friction. Friends, friction is par for the course. There's no way around it. And friends, I want to go a little deeper here because this idea isn't just something I came up with on a rough night. This way of understanding hardship is actually ancient. Humans have known this truth for thousands of years. In many traditional African cultures, hardship was never treated as proof that something had gone wrong with a person's life. Difficulty wasn't considered a verdict, actually. It was considered a season, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. For example, in many West African traditions, especially among the Akan people, there's an understanding that life moves in cycles, not in straight lines. I love looking at African traditions and African religion and, ancient sacred traditions because I believe there's just something so beautiful about it. So that is why I want to talk about this. There are seasons of planting, seasons of waiting, seasons of harvest, and seasons where the land looks barren. And none of those seasons mean the land has failed, according to these traditions, okay? They mean it's doing what the land does. There's even a concept known as Sankofa, and I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, which roughly means go back and retrieve what you need in order to move forward. The idea is that growth doesn't come from pretending hardship didn't happen. It comes from carrying the wisdom earned in it as you continue your journey forward. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly what this video is about. That's a life reset, literally. Not erasing the past, not rushing the pain, but moving forward with what you've learned. And in many Southern African cultures, there's a philosophy of Ubuntu, which at its core says a person becomes a person through struggle, relationship, and responsibility. You don't become whole by avoiding difficulty. You become whole by enduring it, being shaped by it, and continuing on with integrity. Friends, the ancient people of Africa sometimes knew a lot more about life than we do in our modern world because this is so true. Hard seasons were never meant to be something to escape. They were something to be faced. And that matters because when you're in a life reset, you're often at what feels like rock bottom. And rock bottom doesn't look like a dramatic crash most of the time. It kind of looks like mud. I use this analogy a lot. It's like getting stuck in heavy, clinging mud. You're tired, you're frustrated. Every step feels slow. You try to move forward and it feels like nothing changes. Sometimes it feels like the harder you struggle, the deeper you sink, like quicksand. This is so true. And scarcity mindset plays into this, okay? That's where so many people are when they find this channel. That's literally who this channel is intended for. People who are in that mud stage, okay? And I want you to hear this clearly. You're not broken, friend. You're not failing because you had a bad day. You're not weak because you had a rough time at work or because you had a rough time in your relationship today or whatever it was. You're just in the mud right now. You are literally in the mud of life right now. And in ancient cultures, the mud wasn't something that was considered shameful. It was understood as part of the terrain. You don't judge yourself for landing there. You figure out how to get your footing. You figure out how to move forward. And there is strength in this and development in this. And sometimes this is hard to say. This is hard to listen to, but sometimes it's the place you need to be. Sometimes it's the place you need to travel through in order to continue the climb up the mountain, okay? There is no instant escape sometimes from these hard times. No teleportation to the mountaintop. You just have to pull yourself out slowly, inch by inch. You're going to get filthy. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be awful sometimes. Sometimes you're going to slip backwards and get stuck again. Sometimes you're just going to have to rest when you have to with one foot in the mud. And eventually, if you keep going, you will find firmer ground. You'll begin to climb out of that mud pit and up in the mountain toward the top of the mountain, which represents a new beginning, a new chapter, paradise. On the other side, the new chapter you deserve. And friends, let me tell you, in that moment, when the mud loosens its grip, it doesn't always feel triumphant, okay? Sometimes it feels quiet and subtle, but it's real. In cultures like the Maasai, which, forgive me if I'm saying this wrong, I've only read these things, I haven't heard people say them very much, but the Maasai of East Africa, in cultures like this, endurance wasn't accidental, okay? Young people were taught that strength is built through challenge. You don't become capable of being protected from hardship. You become capable by meeting it and discovering that you can survive it, that you're capable, that you have what it takes. That's what the mountain represents in the metaphor. The mountain isn't your punishment. It's the journey, but even more important, it's the preparation. Every step upward builds something in you: patience, strength, perspective. You learn how to carry weight. You learn that not every bad day requires a dramatic decision. Some days just require you to keep going. And that's the hard lesson, man. That is the hard lesson. And yes, Paradise is up there at the top of that mountain, a better life, a life with more meaning, more stability, more peace, a next chapter that you deserve after the disaster you've faced, that you deserve as a human. I believe this. I believe that as a human, you deserve another chapter. I believe that I have been so fortunate to get second chapters in my life. I think I deserve them, and I'm so grateful for them. And that's what I want for you, and I believe you deserve it, and I believe you can get it. But no one reaches that without the climb. And the climb isn't constant triumph, guys. And this is hard for me because I'm an Enneagram 3. I'm the achiever. I want constant triumph, but it just doesn't exist. On nights like tonight at work, it's just sometimes crappy. It's just crappy. There's no other way to say it, guys. Some days the trail is steep. Some days the weather is going to be bad. Some days you're going to question why you're even trying. Wouldn't it have been better to just stay in the bottom? At least in the mud, you could take a nap. But no. That's not the truth, and you know it. That doesn't mean you chose the wrong path. It just means that you're on the path, the way that you feel, because it's hard. It's hard to be on the path. Ancient wisdom understood something that we often forget in modern life. Struggle is not the enemy, friends. Avoiding struggle is a huge part of the enemy and a huge part of the issue. A hard day on the climb is a hard day of important ground covered, important lessons learned, important day of development for yourself. It's not fun. It sucks. But sometimes it's what has to happen, and it doesn't mean that you're on the wrong path. So wipe the mud off, get some rest, let your body and your mind recover at the end of the day, which I'm about to do. I'm about to go to bed. I just played with the doggos. I'm recording this video because I wanted to get these thoughts off my mind. Don't turn it into some kind of prophecy about your future. Don't overthink it, guys. Don't think you need to completely radically change directions because you had a bad day. Let it be what it is. A hard day on the climb to the top of the mountain. You're not stuck at the bottom anymore. That's why you're on the climb. You're not lost. You are on the way, okay? The climb may be slow and imperfect, but what that climb is earning you is going to be worth so much more than gold when you reach the top and you finally find the next chapter. You finally find paradise. You finally out of the mud. It's so important. All right. That's all I got for this one. I'll see you on the trail, you awesome people. Thank you so much for being here. Don't give up. Do not give up. Okay? Hit the subscribe button and that thumbs up button. I appreciate all of you. See you on the next one.